You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening. My name is Peter Vasserman, Chairman of the Branford Inland Wetland Commission. Today is July 11th, 2024. It is 7 o'clock. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Inland Wetland Commission. We are meeting in accordance with Public Act 22-3 using the Zoom platform. Branford Community TV is recording, so please make sure your face is visible for public viewing. The agenda for tonight's meeting is dated, or should say filed on July 9th. It's on the town's website. Material for tonight's meeting was mailed to commissioners and is on the town's website in the Inland Wetland Dropbox. The access to that Dropbox is on the agenda for this evening. I'll now do a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, present.
Commissioner Boda.
Commissioner Boda, present.
Commissioner Omrod.
Commissioner Ormrod, present.
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, present.
And Commissioner Goklowski.
Commissioner Goklowski, present.
And we have two staff members with us this evening, Inland Wetland Director Jamie Frederick.
Present.
And Inland Wetland Associate Katie Blanchett.
Present.
Okay, first up is the, do we have any changes to the agenda from staff?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, no changes, just a note that the date of the minutes has a typo. It should say June 27th.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. We have a quorum for this evening, so all commissioners that are present on the call this evening can participate and vote. Regarding the first item on the agenda, we have the minutes for approval from our June 27th meeting. Is there a motion to move those minutes?
Commissioner Goklowski, I move that we accept the minutes as proposed with the slight change of the date.
And is there a second?
Commissioner Papantonis, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any wish to decline? Okay, minutes approved. First up on the agenda is the public hearing. However, that has been tabled to the July 25th meeting. So there will be no discussion of that public hearing this evening. Item 3, application for review, Inland Wetland 240501. That's also tabled. Jamie, can you give us an update on the comments that were made and any progress regarding those comments from the last meeting?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. I think the big one here was the commission wanted to see test pits because their plans were claiming zero infiltration. So the commission wanted an investigation to confirm whether or not infiltration could be achieved. They completed those test pits yesterday. And they did get some positive results, so they're going to be revising the plans to address that. And they have some additional comments from myself and from the town engineer to address as well. So
Okay.
I'm anticipating that'll be ready for review July 25th.
Thank you. Inland Wetland 240602, 329, also known as 325 East Main, PDD for mixed use commercial and residential use. I think there's an update on this one as well, Jamie.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. We've received revised materials. I got some comments out this week. And we've received a response to that and to town engineer comments. However, those responses were received this week as well, yesterday and today. So they haven't fully been reviewed yet. But the applicant team is present. I'm sure to run through those changes and any other questions that the commission has.
Before I turn it over to the applicant, are we in any issue regarding timing on this or not?
No, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, the review can be continued to the July 25th meeting without need for extensions.
Okay, so you need to complete your review. Is that fundamentally where we're at?
Yeah.
I'll turn that over to Mr. Nuff, I believe, at this point.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Nice to see all of you again. My name is John Nuff. I'm an attorney with an office at 135 Broad Street in Milford. Here tonight on behalf of CP Branford LLC, which is the contract purchaser of the property 329 East Main Street. The property consists of 13 3/4 acres. As you all know, there's an existing Walgreens that is fully tenant operating, and also the vacant theater. You will recall that you approved a previous iteration of this application. Same adaptive reuse of the theater for self-storage. Obviously, Walgreens is going to remain the same. There's a multifamily residential community, but also there was a drive-through associated with a coffee shop and medical office. That building closest to East Main Street has been removed. So we're left with three uses: the multifamily, the self-storage, and Walgreens. The design team, and John Schmitz in particular, has taken this opportunity to reduce the amount of impervious coverage even further than the past. I mean, as I said, you'll recall that you approved this some time ago, and I think that was a unanimous approval. And I think the commission, after closely scrutinizing the application, was very pleased with the proposal. And I think you'll be even further pleased as a result of the changes from the last time. When we met, we've actually met with Jamie on several occasions as we worked through this new design, and we sort of went back and forth as to whether or not this actually required a new application to the commission. And Jamie felt more comfortable that it should come back to you, and we certainly didn't object. And I tell you that more as a way of giving you some context of the sort of the very minor nature. This is sort of literally nibbling around the edges of the development and pushing the development envelope a little further back from the wetland areas. I guess it's also relevant in the context of we made submitted a fee waiver request, which is sort of interesting because your application fees are based upon total site disturbance, not disturbance within the open review area. There's an extra charge for doing work within the wetlands. Total site disturbance, whether you're in the wetlands, whether you're in the open review area, or whether you're completely outside the open review area. So, and we have a substantial amount of work that's taking place that has led to an application fee of close to $9,000, and I think our last application fee was similar to that. So we think, in light of the improvement to the situation, and in light of the fact that the application fee is based upon work that is in no way related to the wetlands, we think that a fee waiver request is appropriate. We would respectfully request that you give that some consideration as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to John Schmitz, who you're all very familiar with, to walk you through the site plan. I don't think our wetland scientist, Sagan Simcoe, is going to be making any official presentation, but he is here tonight for questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Hi, thanks, John. Again, John Schmitz, BL Companies project manager, doing business at 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. Jamie, will I be able to share screen? I can walk the commission through the plans.
You should be good.
Okay. Okay. So what you should be seeing now is just an aerial image, just a Google image of the existing site. Again, just to orient yourselves, the large black area here, roof is the existing cinema. You see Walgreens off to the left here. Route 1, West Post Road along here. Zane cycles directly across the street from us. And then exit 55, I believe, northbound entrance ramp at this location, and also exit ramp. Traffic signal at this location will be maintained. Again, you see quite a bit of parking, hundreds of parking spaces available for the cinema that has been vacant for a number of years now. There's some landscape islands. And what I'll do is I'll jump over, I'll share with you the proposed plan. So it's slightly rotated a little bit, but still gives an indication of the project. So this area down here is the rectangle would be the existing cinema building, which again would be self-storage. The four orange color buildings are what we propose to construct, which are the new buildings. These three buildings here at the top are residential buildings. The building at this location, which is parallel to Route 1, is a combination mixed-use building. There will be a proposed medical office use as well as a retail use. And then, of course, on the first floor, there would also be some community space, fitness room for tenants. The upper floors of this building would be residential. The wetlands on this property are along the perimeter of the development. So we have the wetlands rather along the easterly boundary of the site, indicated here along the highway entrance ramp, also along the southerly end of the site, along here, and also wraps around the corner, the southeast corner. At this location, there's an existing municipal pump station right in this corner here. One thing to note that all the development that we propose will be within the existing limit of development today, meaning that we're not encroaching any closer to the wetlands than we are today. In fact, we're moving away from the wetlands by creating more green space along the easterly side of the site with the new buildings. In total, we're adding 47,677 square feet of new green space. So that's converting pavement into green space. And what that does is that drops our impervious coverage from approximately today, 54.5% impervious. It'll drop it down to 44.9. So it was a 10% reduction there for that 1 acre of green space. I will jump over to the grading and drainage plan just to show you again the site. So there's 3 outlets for stormwater today. One is at the northeast corner of the site at this location. There's another location for an existing storm drain at the southeast corner of the site adjacent to wetlands. And then further down south behind the theater building, just to the east of the sanitary pump station, is a 3rd outlet. We'll be maintaining all 3 of those outlet conditions. There's flared ends at all 3 of those. Our proposed design incorporates some of the storm drainage that's there today, so we don't need to go back and have any additional impacts to the wetlands. We'll just be reutilizing those 3 outlets. In addition to those 3 outlets, there's also 3 hydrodynamic separators that are on site. Currently, they're offline, meaning that stormwater pipes go up to the hydrodynamic separators, and then low flows that are treated like your first inch of runoff are diverted into the hydrodynamic separator for treatment. Higher flows, if you had, say, a 25-year storm, a 50-year storm, that bypasses the structure completely and goes directly to the outlets. One of the systems, the one at this location on the east side, will be replaced. That's due to the fact that building a new building in that location, we have some constructability issues where we wouldn't be able to save that separator. So we'll be constructing a brand new separator for that use. There will be that separator will be online, meaning that all storm flows will pass through that chamber, as well as higher flows will bypass through an internal bypass that does not suspend collected sediment. With regards to water quality, we will comply with the 80% requirement for total suspended solids removal. Catch basins will also include 4-foot deep sumps to provide for additional sediment storage, as well as have hooded outlets, which help to keep floatables and oils in the catch basins at the point of discharge, so that they don't get carried further downstream. Just a couple other things to note, changes from the last plan. We did reduce some of the overall parking. I think we're about 330 parking spaces now. So again, contributing to the reduction in impervious area. We also eliminated the dog park that was on the previous application. There are some more sidewalks and some more areas between the buildings for amenity space for the tenants, such as picnic areas. There's a tot lot at this location of the site, also for tenants. Another patio at this location adjacent to the community space of building number 3. And in general, the rest of the site, again, Walgreens the same, the theater building more or less staying the same. We did receive comment letters from staff from both Wetlands as well as the town engineer. And we've revised the plans in an effort to try to address those comments. We did resubmit comments or revised plans with a cover letter for both comments, for both letters rather, in the last day or so. In general, the comments were technical in nature. We did make some revisions regarding storm drainage, inverts to correct some top of frame numbers, some invert information, as well as moving some of the erosion control around. The town engineer had asked us to revisit our topsoil stockpile, and I'll just share that with you here. I think that's this plan. So what we did was we added another temporary stockpile down in this area. So again, taking advantage of the existing pavement that's out there. Now, given that the site is 55% paved now, there is not a lot of topsoil out there today. So we certainly don't anticipate the need for a lot of stockpiles. In fact, we're probably gonna be importing some material because there's not enough topsoil on the site today. And again, we're creating 44,000 square feet of new green space. And so we need to import some topsoil for that. In general, that's kind of a brief rundown of the site. I'm happy to turn things over to John Nuff or answer any questions you may have.
This is Peter Basserman. You mentioned on the 25 and 50-year storms that you would bypass the separators. Is that a inability of the separators to handle that volume, or why in that condition?
So the 2 separators that we're keeping, that we're maintaining, are constructed offline. So the configuration is already set up. We're just maintaining the existing configuration. They're originally designed to bypass the higher flows. Part of the reason for that is because when the theater was constructed, 25, 30 years ago, hydrodynamic separators were something that were new to the market. And they didn't have the ability to have internal bypasses. So everything was designed what we call offline. So that's why that configuration was used. And we're just, again, maintaining that. The new system that we'll use is again, state-of-the-art hydrodynamic separator. The new systems are designed to have internal bypasses so that you don't need to have offline systems anymore.
These as a follow-up, then the separator, I think number 3 that you talked about, is going to be a replacement of the existing separator. It's offline.
That's correct.
And then why then is that one being replaced with a new technology and not the other 2?
Well, the one that's being replaced is being replaced due to constructability. So let me just jump back to show you. So building 4 is located here. This is the location of the outlet, and so I can sketch on this here. The hydrodynamic separator is offline. It is right here. And today the pipe comes right here underneath the building. So obviously, these pipes will be removed when the building's built. And we feel that once we start to build this building, we have to excavate for footings and foundations. That's going to create an issue for for the offline system. And of course, because we have to reroute the pipes, we can't place them under the building. We have to put the new pipes around the side of the building. And so again, the existing system can't remain. It's basically in the way. So it needs to be removed in order to construct the building and the pipes around the building. And the simplest way to provide for water quality is to install a new hydrodynamic separator. And again, with the newer technology, you no longer need to do offline systems. You can do an online system, and that's what we've chosen to do here.
Let me continue because I'm still a little confused. When you talk about the new separator here, and I'm not sure I understand the offline versus this new one, but does that mean at the 25 and 50-year storm events that we're not going to be screening for particulates? It's going to go right off the site?
No. So an online unit has an internal bypass. So as a storm happens, again, kind of going back to the first flush, that first inch of runoff, the first inch of runoff will still get treated, which is what we're trying to do. That typically carries the majority of our oils and greases and sediment. So anything that would get to the hydrodynamic separator in that first inch will get treated. As the rainfall increases, say we're up to 2 or 3 or 4 inches, it's a much larger storm. The larger storm events, there's now more flow in the pipe. That water will internally bypass the chamber. So it's kind of hard to describe, but and what it does is it just allows the water to pass through without being diverted into the swirl chamber. And by keeping them separate, it also allows for no resuspension of sediment that's already been separated out. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yep, that was helpful. And did the original plan call for just 2 residential buildings as opposed to the current plan, which is 3, or do I have that wrong?
I believe that the original plan we had called for 2 residential buildings. We had a coffee shop with a drive-through. I believe there were 2 residential buildings. We came back for a modification to create a T-shaped building. And now we're back.
To the extent it's relevant, I think it was originally a U-shaped, and then it turned into an L, and so we're working our way through the alphabet. So I guess now we have a couple of I's, but yeah, I think there's always 1 building that's now been separated into 3.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So Mr. Chairman, we don't have anything else. We're obviously happy to answer any questions. I mean, for as long as you want to ask us questions. But as Jamie indicated, she needs to review the materials that most recently got submitted. But we're happy to engage in whatever dialogue you want to engage in.
Great.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I do have one follow-up question on the hydrodynamic separators. So it's been represented that the flow going through the units is decreasing, but has it been assessed whether or not the water quality volume as calculated today by today's standards is being treated by those units? I know you said they were new technology when they were installed, so I'm just wondering if they're sized properly to treat that initial water quality volume.
Yeah, so I could provide some additional backup for that, but yeah, the answer is correct. Yeah, and all 3, the 2 that are remaining, we're reducing the peak flow rate to each one of those. And I think in one of the previous applications, we noted that they are being cleaned on a regular basis, and copies of those reports have been submitted to town staff on a yearly basis. But yeah, I'm happy to submit some additional calculations to show that.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I did briefly look at the materials that were submitted, and that seemed to be kind of the outstanding thing that wasn't necessarily fully addressed. Not to say that there's anything else, but that was the one that kind of jumped out to me. And with my very brief conversation with John Hofferly, I know he only briefly looked at part of the response. He didn't have a chance to review the whole thing. And then I also just want to follow up for the commission briefly on the fee reduction request. I can either dive into my comments on that now, or if you want, I can hold them until later after commissioners have asked any questions they have regarding the application.
Any other questions for Mr. Schmitz?
This is Commissioner Boda. So just the outflow from these separators, is it all to the south or is it in multiple discharge locations?
You broke up a little bit. I think the question was, are we have 3 different discharges? Is that so what you're asking?
Yeah, or are the systems connected?
Yeah, so just jumping back. So there are three separate systems. So today there are 3 separate systems in the existing condition. Under the proposed condition, there will also be 3 separate systems. So again, one discharging at this location through a new separator, another system at this location in the southeast corner, again offline discharge here, and then a third system discharging at this location, again an offline separator here. So 3 separate systems today, 3 separate systems in the future. And because of the addition of the green space, all 3 will discharge less volume and less peak runoff than what exists today.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
This is Commissioner Begman. I don't recall from last time, but where those discharge outlets come out, there was riprap or something. There were, where the water starts coming out, especially the one to the east, the new one. It's kind of a steep slope there, as I recall. And there's a dissipator, or what are we doing with the amount of water that's coming out to prevent erosion?
Right. So yeah, again, John Schmitz with BL. So we weren't touching any of the flared ends. I believe the one on the east, so we're not replacing the one on the east. We're tying into the same pipe here. I believe the last picture I saw, it was partially inundated with some water, but there is riprap there today. I think the day the picture was taken, there was after a rainfall event, and there was some water in that pipe, but there is riprap at that location. The other 2 locations I'd have to look into, only because they're also both beyond the site perimeter has a chain link fence, and both of those outlets are on the other side of the chain link fence. So I didn't have access to look at those, but I can certainly investigate to see what the condition of those outlets are.
Yeah, I think that perhaps Commissioner Begeman may have been talking about, and by the way, if I'm wrong, then obviously please tell me. I know there was a discussion about the discharge of water from the roof leaders, I believe, from in the area where building 6 is now located. And I think there's a small retaining wall that's now been removed. And so Commissioner Begeman, if that's refreshing your recollection at all, maybe that's helpful. But if you are in fact talking about the discharges from the pipes, Schmitty can look into that as well.
Yeah, I was thinking more of Commissioner Begman. I was thinking more this time about what happens to the water when it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, thanks.
This is Christopher Bassman. Jamie, you want to frame the fee reduction comment?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I do think it would be consistent with past practice for the commission to consider a fee reduction, given that it is a pretty similar application to one that was recently reviewed and approved by the commission. The application fees are designed with the review of the application itself in mind, but also with the follow-up requirements for compliance with any permit that's issued. So I think there's that to consider as well. And if commissioners have any additional questions for me on that, I'm happy to elaborate, but I will also just quickly note that the $60 deep fee cannot be waived. So the lowest it could be reduced to would be $60.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Can you, given some of our past practices on fee reduction, provide a recommendation at the next meeting as to what the suggested fee reduction might be that would be consistent with those past practices, so that the commission can consider that when we review this application again?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So I think that might be a little bit difficult, just because I think it's very much a case by case basis. I know that there have been times where the commission's waived it all the way down to the $60 deep fee. And then there's been other times where the commission has kind of decided on some sort of middle ground. And I think it kind of really boils down to the commission determining how different this review is, and kind of essentially what would be appropriate for the additional review of these revised materials would be.
Can I?
But at this, Commissioner Bassett, at this point, you haven't completed your review.
No, I mean, at this point, I think my review is primarily focused to just reviewing the responses to the comments. And I guess what I'm kind of struggling with is I never necessarily really know what qualifies as a new application versus a modification. So I'm hesitant to try and make a recommendation for the commission.
Right, and that's essentially.
Can I jump in? This is Commissioner Boda. I think this is a particularly unique case, and it does feel more like a modification from our perspective. Then I know it's a new application, we're going through the new application process, but the purpose of the fee is town supporting town staff and making sure that taxpayers are not footing the bill for development. So we got the full fee from the previous application, correct?
Correct.
So given that, my thought would be that Jamie and Katie go back and just kind of give an estimate of how much time this additional review is, and you know what that might cost the town. I don't imagine it is a substantial amount, and then we add the $60 deep fee, and that be the fee, because otherwise it feels like they're paying twice. They've already paid for it. We've already reviewed it. You know what I mean? So this feels more like a modification than a new application. So those are my 2 cents.
Anybody have issue with that?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. My only concern is that I see some significant changes in the quote unquote modification that they did. They erected a new building, they subtracted a few things, added a few things. I have no problem with Jamie providing us with, you know, some good information, and I'm not saying that we, you know, expect the applicant to pay a full fee again, but I just want to, you know, there's been some significant changes to this application. I think it's a little more than a modification at this stage.
Well, Commissioner Batsman, it is an application that we're considering. Fee reductions on the applications have certainly been considered in the past. It's supposed to cover town staff, regardless of whether it's, you know, additional buildings or not. Yeah, obviously the issue for us is wetlands and impact on wetlands, and if that review can be done relatively quickly with the new information, then the applicant shouldn't pay, you know, beyond that. I think, does anybody want to move somewhat differently than Commissioner Boda's suggestion, which is Jamie, after her review and all of that, come back with a thought process of how much time, and we'll consider the reduction at the next meeting when we discuss this project. Anything else, commissioners, for Mr. Knopf and his crew? Okay. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
Thank you.
All right. And we have to enforcement? Yeah. Enforcement, cease and correct 190901 7680 Pent Road. Some vegetation has been removed, and I guess that's at the point where we need to consider lifting the order. Jamie, please.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So this order was issued in 2019. There was some clearing along watercourse wetland area. The owner was told that they needed to have a soil scientist do an investigation and submit a restoration plan. So the soil scientist did an investigation and a report was received, I believe, in 2019. And then the owner worked on a restoration plan, which was I think approved in 2020, was implemented in 2020. A couple of inspections were completed to make sure the plantings were still there, doing well, being maintained as needed. And the commission had advised that one more inspection needed to happen. Things happened, it fell through the cracks. That final inspection was not completed. Recently came to my attention that there are new owners. They were in town hall asking some questions. And I advised them that there's a cease and correct order on the property. I told them that it just needed a final inspection. So hopefully that was in fact all that was required. I met with them out on the property, viewed the conditions, talked with them a little bit about what maintenance could and likely should occur and what would require a permit. So the plantings were still there. They're a little bit overgrown by vines and other things in some instances. So I did advise that they could remove the immediate vegetation crowding those plantings. And so my recommendation would be at this time that it's appropriate to lift the order. If commission wants to go through any history, I have the initial order, the upholding of the order, a couple of photos of what the site looked like when the order was issued, and then the memo that has been in the Dropbox with my recommendation and a couple photos from when I was last out on site, I want to say in May. Any questions?
This is Commissioner Boda. Those are the pictures from May 17 that are in the Dropbox and the memo from the 3rd, July 3rd?
Yeah, they're the
July
pictures that
3rd.
are embedded in the memo. Yeah, I'm in the wrong folder. Yeah, so it's the July 3rd inland wetland agent memo. I was
Looks
too
pretty-
busy talking and
looks
forgot
pretty
to
lush.
take too many pictures.
Oh, that's very
So,
good.
on this, can everyone see the photo?
Yep.
So this is a meadow area. The kind of in this area had been cleared, and then along the watercourse had been cleared as well. So here you can see that it is vegetated fully. You can kind of see the black silt fence here. I did advise the new owner that that should be removed carefully to prevent any ground disturbance, but that it could be removed and disposed of. And then this is looking down to the wetland area at the lower end of the watercourse, which was an area that was heavily impacted initially. You can see that invasive species are not fully managed / managed, but it is vegetated, it is stabilized, and I didn't take very many pictures further up the watercourse. So I would recommend that the order be lifted.
Commissioner Basserman, does any commissioner feel differently from staff's recommendation that the cease and correct on CC 190901 be lifted?
This is Commissioner Begeman, I don't disagree with that, but I just wanted to ask, is the condition that it's in, would that have sufficed if it hadn't fallen through the cracks and periodic, visits had gone out?
Yeah,
Basically.
I think so. I mean, it's possible that the plantings would have been better maintained when you know, they were still establishing at first. I mean, some of the plantings look good and some of them look, you know, they obviously were overgrown. So if I had done another inspection earlier, I would have advised that they had, you know, pruned around those plantings to give them more of a fighting chance. I don't usually generally do follow-up inspections though, so like doing another inspection in 2 weeks to confirm they did it isn't generally a practice that we do. So I'm not sure advising how much that would have had an impact. I do think that that issue is by and large part of why the commission wanted me to do another inspection. At the end of the growing season or beginning of the growing season, I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, fall of 2021. So
Okay, this is Commissioner Boda. Do you want a motion?
I'm sorry.
Please, please.
I make a motion that we lift cease and correct number 190901, 7680 Pent Road, based on the current site conditions, and meeting the cease and correct order, stabilizing the property.
Is there a second out there?
Commissioner Ormrod, I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll do a vote. Commissioner Gokowski,
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Papatonis,
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Amrod,
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Boda,
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basson, aye. Okay. Now we have cease and correct 240701, 1, 5, and 7 Beacon Hill Road, vegetation removal and earth disturbance within the wetland and the adjacent upland area. And we, I guess at this point, need a show cause hearing. Jamie, can you update?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So on Monday, I went out to the site to take another look at the wetland extent on site relative to pending application. They were advised to hang wetland flags, and in doing so, a large area, the area to be investigated was cleared. And I was concerned as to the level of clearing and the location of clearing, so I did issue the cease and correct order. I've been in touch with parties, and it's my understanding that they'll be able to attend the July 25th meeting, and that they will have the updated survey showing the revised wetland extent available that meeting. I don't have any immediate concerns that I feel need to be addressed between now and July 25th. So my recommendation would be to continue the show cause hearing to the July 25th meeting so that the representatives can be present and the updated survey with wetland flagging will be available.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda. So the 25th is the public hearing for Beacon Hill and the continuation of East Main and 1201 West Main. Is that all on the 25th?
I didn't hear all of those, but I'm gonna go with yes.
So then maybe we don't need to put this on that. It could go to, you know what I mean? Like,
so Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, my thought would be that our next meeting isn't until August 22nd. So I don't know if the commission wants to table it to that date. I don't know if there's
Mr. Basson,
necessarily
the
an
soil
issue
scientists
with it.
are going to be available in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be attending for the public hearing.
Right.
I just have a sneaking suspicion that this conversation will be happening at 10:45, and it will not get the attention that it should, because, well, at 10:45.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I might suggest to put it on the agenda, and you can always table it if it's too late to discuss it to the August 22nd meeting. But
Jamie, this
or
is,
if you want, we can do August 22nd.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Goklowski. Do you feel that there's any immediate concern that we could put it off to the August meeting?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I mean, I suppose there's nothing that I can see specifically that necessarily needs to be done between now and August 22nd. Because they're not going to be able to do any planting during the middle of the summer anyways. So if the commission wants to table it to that date, then that's what we can do. We'll send an updated correspondence to them, letting them know that.
This is Commissioner Goklowski again. I think moving it to the August date, I mean, we're only kidding ourselves. We know it's not going to get on the agenda with the other items that are coming up in July. So I'm sure Commissioner Bada agrees with that scenario as well.
All right, so Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent will continue it to the August 22nd meeting, and I'll just advise the recipients of the order to be working on the items requested, so that hopefully there's no delays with any implementation in the fall as applicable. Makes sense?
This is Commissioner Basserman, just a question. I assume pushing that off does not compromise the discussion that we have on the application for, inland wetland 240202.
They're separate processes, so
Shouldn't complicate, correct?
no.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Bagman, was there anything else that they were going to be doing with the flags, or that's all done?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, the flags have been placed. It's my understanding that the surveying crew is going out and picking them up either late this week or early next week. And an updated survey will be available by the July 25th meeting.
But there's no more mechanical machinery going in there.
No, yeah, and I did receive confirmation from the representatives that there would be no additional activity between now and the July 25th meeting. And I can reiterate that there should be no activity between now and the August 22nd meeting which I'm sure they're open to. There's no additional activity proposed or planned at this time.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, we don't need a vote on that, correct? We use this general consensus to move it to the August 22nd meeting.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Great, good. Okay, other business. Here we go again, regulation revision. Because of the stormwater quality manual guidelines that have been released recently. Discuss timing and process. Let's see, there was material sent out from staff regarding the changes in a memorandum dated July 3rd, with the particular emphasis in section 7.6. Anything to add to the information that was previously sent out, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So, I mean, I think the memo kind of self-explains it, but the proposed changes are to address changes to the stormwater quality manual, and it kind of include that in the wetlands and watercourses regulations of the town of Branford. The stormwater quality manual is a guidance document. However, part of the revisions help it align with the MS4 requirements, and the town does have an MS4 permit and is held to certain criteria and benchmarks, if you will. So I think the revisions kind of help align everything and make everything work together towards kind of a common goal of improving stormwater quality. I think it's particularly important the stormwater quality manual revisions revise the way the stormwater quality is calculated. And of course, we just put the stormwater quality calculation in the regs. And so now we're out of date. So I think it's very important that we update that because it changes the calculation from being based off of the first inch to 1.3 inches. And obviously we want to take advantage of what we can to improve stormwater quality, reaching wetland and watercourse areas. So excuse me. 1 minute. I did reread the proposed regulation revisions yesterday in preparation for today. And I realized a minor error where I don't define DCIA the first time I use it. I define it the third time I use it. So I'd make the recommendation that I move it to the first time I use it so that everyone knows what it is. But other than that, everything seems to reflect the changes that were made relative to the content that was in the regulations to begin with. So there were some terms that I removed because they were removed from the stormwater quality manual, such as secondary and primary treatment practices.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda. So I have the memo up, but there's 2 draft changes. So there's the one with the markup and the one without. Can we maybe
Look at one of them?
look at one of those?
Sure. Is there a preference?
Maybe with the markup.
Okay.
Maybe we can look at it together. Plus for our viewing audience. I'm sure I laughed.
All right. So do we want to walk through them? Do commissioners want to identify?
This is Commissioner Bassman. I had one question. Why was the groundwater recharge eliminated from the new regulations? Do we understand why that whole area was removed?
So the reason why I removed it is because it was removed from the stormwater quality manual. I'm not really sure.
The why is really my
Yeah,
question.
I'm not really sure why. No.
Was there any training or documentation when the new manual was released that discussed the changes?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent. Yeah, the state was pretty good about having multiple webinar trainings, and then also I believe the Kakiwik conference, they had a presentation that went into the stormwater quality changes as well. It's definitely been a hot topic with a lot of webinar training content. I don't recall specifically any comments regarding groundwater recharge volume at those trainings. I think it mostly focused on the alignment with the MS4 requirements and the changes in the calculation.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Bo. Just like, so if you open up the stormwater quality manual, I'm not sure why the wording there has changed, but just doing a quick search for groundwater recharge, it does appear that it's still a driving priority. So it may be that the water quality, the calculations that they're doing, it's coming up somewhere different. Do you know what I mean? And that they're not striking it as a prerequisite, but it's just maybe manifesting itself somewhere differently.
Yeah,
So
I didn't see any change.
I do still, further down in the regs, we talk about groundwater recharge, so it's not eliminated from the regulations, it's just eliminated from that specific spot.
Yeah, I didn't notice any change in the formulas.
I'm sorry?
I didn't notice any, this is Commissioner Bassman, I didn't notice any change in the formulas.
Would it help if I jump down to groundwater recharge in the proposed regs?
Sure.
But,
It has in the water
I-
quality volume calculation.
you know, looking at it again, I'm realizing I also took out, so I'm realizing that's not the reason why I took it out. The reason I took it out is because of kind of general content of the section and trying to make everything have its own section. So you'll also notice I removed from section 7.6A water quality volume, but obviously we still
yeah.
care about water quality volume as well. So I think in that location has more to do with structure than
Gotcha.
content.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah,
And
so
I'll make
item
a
two.
note of that so I remember in the future.
Right. Okay. So, Jamie, this is Commissioner Bassman question. If we want to get these regs in accordance with what Deep is looking for, we would have to file these by when?
So I don't know if it's about what Deep is looking for, but the guidance is that the kind of the deadline for compliance with the revised stormwater quality or the stormwater quality manual would be the end of September. I think it's September 30th. So in the memo, I have outlined a couple of dates based off of the timelines for regulation revisions. So I would recommend at the very, I mean, ideally, if we can get language kind of generally confirmed tonight, we could send it up to Deep so that a public hearing could be held at the August 22nd meeting. And then it could be a notice of decision could theoretically be September 5th if the public hearing isn't continued. Alternatively, if we get the language up to Deep by August 8th, public hearing could be September 12th with adoption at September 26th.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Who's the authority that established the September date?
So the stormwater quality manual is kind of a collaboration of entities. I'm not sure how much that date relates back to MS4 compliance, which I think is really the ultimate driving force as far as compliance, because the stormwater quality manual is a guidance document, but it does relate the guidance document relates to permits issued by the state. So any project that requires a general permit would have to comply with this documentation. So long story short, like
This is Chris Brown. Who slapped your hand if you don't make the September date? I'm just trying to find out who's in charge.
probably in our case, the biggest the biggest entity that would be upset would be the engineering department because they're responsible for the town's compliance with the MS4 permit.
Okay. Got it. Commissioner Boda, did you want to go through the changes? Now that we used to have that before.
It's 8 o'clock and like this is an unheard of thing, and usually our brains are fried for this kind of thing, and I think it's a small enough section that
yeah, okay.
It makes sense to me to just plow through it. And you know, Jamie's done a nice job about it's nice when the revisions are in front of us. One of the questions that I have is, I see that the dates are switched to the 2023 manual. I'm wondering if it would make sense to, instead of saying 2023, we can say something more ambiguous, such as the current stormwater manual.
So I think it has been revised to be general. It just says, Connecticut guidelines for soil and erosion and sediment control as updated and stormwater quality manual as updated. In the comments on the side, it has the year, but
yeah.
these are just comments that I had put in.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a comment that I
little
received from the engineering department as well, which is why it's already done.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Bestman. I noticed that in that first 7.6A, that the elimination of maximum extent achievable was eliminated.
So that's not eliminated, that's added, and the highlight has the comment. So the maximum extent achievable, that goes with this comment, changed to align with manual and MS4 language. So historically, in other places where I think I've used that language, oh yeah, like here. So in B, it says to the maximum extent achievable, whereas before we had, unless it is demonstrated why it is not feasible or prudent to do so. So they have to do it to the maximum extent achievable, and if it doesn't meet the criteria, they still have to demonstrate why that's the maximum extent achievable. It's just a different way of wording it that aligns with the other documentation that they're probably looking at as part of their permit process.
This is Commissioner Begman. So Jamie, you've put a lot of work into this, and you have, what are you looking for us, from us? What do you want from us in terms of our comments? Because it's really hard to look at this where it's formatted, but it may be, I'm suggesting if we look at the one without all the comments.
Yeah, if that's easier, we can toggle back and forth.
And then if we have a question, we can go see why you changed what you changed.
Sure. So yeah, I made these changes a while ago, I'll be honest. So I'm a little bit rusty on some of the rationale. But the kind of the point of tonight is to, or hopefully is to see if the commission generally has a consensus that this is the language that you want to send up to the up to DEEP, because the language has to be sent to DEEP at least 35 days prior to the public hearing. And then we can move forward with scheduling that public hearing, and then the commission would go through the regulation revisions again at the public hearing and state, on the record of that public hearing, the reason for the changes. Respond to any public comment that may be received. And then, we would go through the adoption of revised regs, hopefully to get the regulations up to date with the new guidance materials. So nothing's being proposed to be adopted at this point. It's just to start the process.
Commissioner Bassman, Jamie, when you say for public comment, do we treat this like any other item on the agenda regarding public comment?
So when the language is sent to DEEP, after the language is sent to DEEP, the commission has to hold a public hearing on the regulation changes. So it's like any other public hearing where members of the public can speak, ask questions, provide feedback, that the commission can consider.
But as a follow-up question, so when we put it on the Dropbox,
Yes.
essentially that's the process that it tries to get public comment on the item. Nothing beyond that.
I mean, just as with any item on the agenda, public comment should pertain to the subject matter before the commission. So just the regulations which are being proposed to change doesn't open up the door to the whole regulations.
Okay.
Okay, so should we go through it?
Yeah.
So does the commission want me to read it or kind of just highlight some of
Hopefully
the?
no. Hopefully no.
So I think, so we've got the water quality volume. Although I'm looking at this and this looks like it might not actually be reflective of what we were looking at over here. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
So in 7.6, you're just adding the term best management practice. That's the difference. 7.6.
Yeah, the
in
first change is to
preamble.
just,
And then 7.6A, that phrase, and to the maximum extent achievable.
right. And then the title of the soil and erosion control manual changed slightly, so that's what that changes. Then change the chapter reference because it was not correct. Got rid of water quality volume and groundwater recharge volume. They're further down.
And instead it looks like you said stormwater management standards. So it changing water quality volume and groundwater recharge to stormwater management standards and performance criteria, period.
Right, it's grouping everything and then breaking it out further down.
And then, yeah, so it goes to 1B, which is the water quality volume. I'm looking at we're all looking
I flipped back too.
Yeah, because I can't.
And if anyone
hard
wants
to
me to
know.
flip back to the actual language, we can do that. But I think it's easier to see what's changed this way. But if you don't look at track changes all the time, I totally understand that it's difficult. So don't be shy, commissioners, if you want me to jump back to the plain language, and or it is available in the Dropbox if you want to pull it up. And I think we mailed out the plain language one to everyone. So if you have your packet handy, you should have that to look at as a paper copy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 7.6, the beginning looks good. 7.6A looks fine.
There's a
Anybody-
typo there, I think. Melissa Papantonis on the stormwater management standards at the end there. I think you need capital M.
Yes.
Oh. 7.6B. And Jamie, this 7.6B1, the water quality volume, that's lifted directly from the manual.
I believe that is true until the formatting of the information below I is a little bit different, but all of that information came from the manual. Simple disconnection, that's from the manual.
Wait, where do you, I don't see you said simple, oh, you're in, oh, I see, okay. I'm not moving that fast. It was on the formula.
So,
Mr. Wasserman, Jamie, why is P under 7.6, I think it's B, highlighted?
again, because it has a comment. So, I put a little bit of information here about how they got to the 1.3 inches rather than the 1 inch. So I'll just read that real quick. This represents the average of 90th percentile rainfall depths calculated for several locations throughout Connecticut using daily precipitation observations over an approximately 40-year period, 1980 to 2021. and the procedure cited in EPA technical guidance. And then if you want more information on that, because you can't sleep at night, you can look up these references.
Okay, so the highlighted is just to reference a comment, not a change.
Correct. Yeah, that's just because I thought I had additional information that might be
Information.
relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Any change is red and underlined.
Yep. If it's
And
black, then
anything-
that was how it was. And if it's
anything
red,
that's-
it's either new or deleted if it has a cross through.
Okay. So everything else is the same in 7.6 B1.
So yeah, so I mean, all this calculation information is new. Some of it is modification to previous language, but it's updated per the new guidance materials. And I tried to include whatever information they had regarding the impervious area in calculations, so that way it the regulations would align with that guidance, because there has been some instances where there's been confusion from what the manual requires versus what the town requires, and I think it'll just help streamline the process. And I think it also helps keep the process consistent by spelling out what's included and what's not included. While it makes it a bit lengthy, I think it keeps everything transparent. Any
This
other
Commissioner
questions?
Ormrod. So,
Okay.
so I was just kind of moving on, 7.6, but we could certainly back up if anyone wants to. 7.6.2 I B. That's, yeah, the acronym, directly connected impervious area.
Yeah.
That's what you were talking about. Okay.
So that's what I mentioned earlier. I use it 3 times and I define it the 3rd time, and I should move it to this first time. So
Okay.
that's directly connected impervious area. So that's impervious area that's directly connected to the stormwater management system. And I don't know how to unhighlight that. There we go. And under this section 2, the 100% for new development and redevelopment with less than 40% directly connected impervious area, that's currently in the regulations, as is the 75% for redevelopment of sites with more than 40% directly connected area. I just reformatted it so that it might be a little bit easier for hopefully somebody to digest. Before it was kind of just a big block of text. In the redevelopment 40% comes from the MS4. The 75% is a number that the commission determined when making that revision to the regs. The MS4 permit actually allows for 50%, but when it was discussed last, I think the commission thought that 75% was a good middle ground, and there's always the ability to demonstrate why you can't achieve that. So it gives a bit of a break for redevelopment, but not as much of a break as MS4 does, with still the ability to get out if it's really not possible.
You ready to scroll?
Yeah. So this is where the audit, or sorry, no, this is for smaller projects and de minimis projects. And then what you're seeing crossed out is the old stormwater calculation and associated information, which was replaced with language up above. And then we move into the groundwater recharge.
Mhm. This is Commissioner Boda under, I don't even know what number I'm on. The plantings. So it's crossed out B, crossed out E, underneath 5 that's crossed out, preserve and or provide vegetated areas. We've got things will crossed out, shall only include Connecticut native vegetation.
I'm sorry, what? Plant.
It says, so there was will and now it's shall only. I guess it's, yeah, because we're talking about specifically within wetlands and water courses.
Um,
I'm on page 2 of 3.
yeah.
Way down.
Plantings shall only include Connecticut native vegetation within wetlands, water courses, stormwater quality structures, and protected vegetative areas. Yeah, I think that change was kind of like a grammatical correction that I had a couple people read through this and
Mhm.
provide comments, and it kind of made me stop to think as well, because the commission generally does not require that all plantings be native, particularly in the upland area. So
Right.
I definitely would agree with it, with maybe the and protective vegetated areas. That part becomes a little bit, I think, open-minded and open-ended, in the sense that where do you draw the line of where the protective vegetated area starts and ends? I don't know.
Does Commissioner Bassman, does shall have a little more wiggle than will?
Yes, Commissioner Papantonis, absolutely.
Yeah,
It
that's
makes it
probably
it makes it mandatory.
right.
I think the issue is maybe with the word only.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's to get rid of only, or if it's to get rid of and protective vegetated areas, or
This is Commissioner Boda. I think the simplest thing would be to remove only and to remove protective vegetated areas. I think our preference is natives, but and definitely within wetlands and water courses and those water quality structures, but any of the surrounding areas, if it's not an invasive, I don't think that we have to be so restrictive.
yeah, Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. I think that aligns with if practice, and also the commission's past practice, and also just good general practices, especially with climate change. I know that a lot of entities are looking to kind of use those near adjacent, slightly warmer climate species to help some with the transitioning. And then of course there's also the nativars, if you will, or cultivars of native species, which aren't really truly native plants, but depending on how it's bred, may still have the same benefits. So I think that that's a good change to reflect the practice and keep the standard consistent and uniform for everyone.
This is Commissioner Papantonis. I think that we should take out only, but we should leave in protective vegetated areas, because when we're saying shall include, that doesn't mean it has to only be, but it shall include the native vegetation. And
then clarification question. So then would that imply that the plantings would need to be native, not exclusively in wetlands, watercourses, and storm water quality structures, but also in the upland areas surrounding? As a reader, that's how I would interpret it.
Commissioner Papantonis, I think if we take out only, then we're telling them that they need to include native vegetation, but we're giving them a little bit of leeway if that's what we want to do. Because it's the only that means they can, the shell mandates, but only limits what they can use to Connecticut native vegetation. If we take out only, then we're telling them we're preferring Connecticut native vegetation, but there's some leeway and they have to include some Connecticut native vegetation.
Okay, so then this is Commissioner Boda, that brings up a second and maybe hair splitting. Do we prefer that within the wetlands, watercourses, and stormwater management that they are using only native? Or are we open to some of those cultivars, etc., for those areas as well?
This Commissioner Begeman, if climate is changing and we limit natives to the watercourses, and people then start saying, well, this plant is doing better, it's not native, but this does better and has this properties, et cetera, then we either have to change the regulations again. Whereas if we leave it a little more vague, then it could be the review by inland wetland agent to say something about it would be better if you had the natives down in this area, and up in this upland area you have a few natives, but you can also have these cultivars.
This is Commissioner Bassford. If we take out protected vegetated areas, doesn't it give us the freedom on a case-by-case basis?
Well, if you only take out,
I'm saying strike the only, and I think it was Commissioner Boda that said, and take out protected vegetated areas, and you could consider the plantings in the protected vegetated areas on a case-by-case basis. Because in some cases, we're grouping areas where we want to mandate, if you will, native species, and yes, provide some leeway in other areas. And that leeway may be best done on a case-by-case basis without having to constrain us.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I guess my thought is that one or the other could be striked. So if you strike only, then it leaves it open-ended whether or not you can do natives or other non-natives in any of those locations. If you leave only and you strike in protected vegetated areas, you're saying all of the plants in wetlands, watercourses, and stormwater quality structures have to be native.
So
I don't know how much it really matters is kind of my follow-up comment, in the sense that a lot of times when somebody's coming in with an application where they're gonna have plantings in wetlands, water courses, and stormwater structures, which is the things I think the commission cares most about, they know that they're in for a big one, and that if they can say, oh, everything's native, that's probably gonna be something the commission wants to hear. And if for whatever reason there's something they want to plant that's not native, they're probably ideally going to have a good reason for it. And as Commissioner Begemon indicated, that can always be a discussion with the commission. Just because it doesn't say that all plantings shall be native doesn't mean the commission can't inquire about it as part of the review process. It does leave it open-ended though as to what would be acceptable.
Is Commissioner
I
Papantonis?
like scratching only. I think that works.
I just want to point out that only was there, and it was only because of a split infinitive that it got moved to be next to the shall. So it was really a grammatical change, because originally it said plantings will include only Connecticut native vegetation. So I'm of the opinion that we should leave the only and take out protected vegetated areas, if that's the change that the commission wants to make.
Commissioner Papantonis, you just got me to like strike the only.
I would.
No,
well,
you talked me into it.
No, well, I just want to say, when you spoke before, you had said to strike the only and the protected vegetated areas. And I had wanted to leave protected vegetated areas in, but then when I read it again, I realized that the change that we previously had said, that we wanted the plantings to only be Connecticut native vegetation, if we read the way that the regs were before. I'm not sure we should be changing it.
Well, I think to the point you were just making, it is a grammatical change, and clearly there's something in the overall intent of the language that is, I think, a little bit off from what the commission is expecting it to say. So I think striking either only or protected vegetated areas might help address that. And I don't know if we can get a general consensus. It sounds like we have a vote for only and a vote for protected vegetated areas. I mean, it could also be, I'm trying to remember if we have any language elsewhere in the regulations that says something about preference should be given to.
It is Commissioner Begemon. If we think that it's okay to have non-native to a certain extent on a case-by-case basis, we can't say shall only include. It should, because only include are kind of contradictory, right? So if we want all natives, it should say plantings shall be Connecticut native, blah, blah, blah. If we think that we can have some non-natives, then it should be, then you just use include, shall include.
Yes, Commissioner Bassman, but we have a sentence, maybe we need to break it into two sentences. We have a sentence that includes both. An area that we want strictly native and an area that maybe not so much.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Begemon. If that's what we want, then it should definitely be two sentences. If that's what we want, if we really want only natives in those water courses. But I was saying that if climate is changing and people are going to come back and say, you know, this plant really does much better for the purposes, and it's not native, it's from New Jersey. It used to only be found in New Jersey, you know, climate change, but it's not a Connecticut native, but it does really well. You know, then
We
it's
don't
going
wanna, we
against,
don't wanna lock ourselves in and get stuck behind the horticulture and, you know, those things that groups are doing to, kind of tackle some of these issues,
right.
especially with some of the cultivars that they're making, so.
So drop the only, is that what I'm hearing through all of this?
It feels like the simplest thing, because at that point, we're still able to use our judgment. I
Right,
mean,
right.
it's like incorporate it, we can use our judgment. We're talking about all of the places.
Yep.
Y voila.
Anybody want to leave only in?
This is Commissioner Armrod. I'm good with striking only.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I'll make one suggestion, and then we can decide if we want to elaborate on it or move on. But you could also change it to say something along the lines of, and I'm not great with words, planting shall give preference to Connecticut native vegetation, or something a little bit more suggestive than include, or I don't know.
I think it is for our purposes. It's so keeping in mind, as we're looking at these applications, a lot of it we're going by memory. We're not closely examining these regs, every line of every reg for when we're looking at applications. And so I think this is general language that helps us just guide our decision making. I think kind of coming up with a whole, like, we've taken 20 minutes on this only business, and I think trying to develop an entire new sentence is going to take a good 45. And I think we're not getting any juice for the squeeze out of that, you know, like.
I think that's fair.
Sounds like we're dropping only and moving on. Okay.
Everyone ready for the next page?
Yep.
Sorry, I was muted. Can you go up just a second? There's that last sentence second to last sentence doesn't make sense. A little further up. Okay.
Design approach should look to avoid negative impacts, destruction, or diminution of
further up.
wetlands and or water courses and the functions and values they provide.
Further up.
Oh,
Okay, stop. Where you added the should, where you took the in the event out, that and then should. I think you need a word.
yes. Wait. BMPs are intended to remove and capture sediment from stormwater flows to be
Used to prevent.
BMPs that are intended to remove and capture sediment from the stormwater flows are to be used to prevent and reduce sedimentation to the greatest extent possible should stabilization measures fail.
Okay,
I think it works.
all right. Go ahead. We're good.
Maybe there should be a comma there. I don't know. I'm horrible
No.
with commas. I
No,
want them
it's okay.
everywhere.
It's okay. It's okay. Go. Next.
Last page.
So 7.8 D1 has that directly connected impervious area language that I would move up to the first time DCIA is used. And the inclusion of directly connected impervious area and amount of directly connected impervious area disconnected is at the request of the engineering department to help track with MS4 permit compliance. Essentially, there's different amounts of disconnection the town has to achieve by certain points. So it helps them to track what's been disconnected and plan for what additional disconnections are needed and all that.
Amy, this is Commissioner Boda, or is the idea to add the DCIA to our section 2? Our definition?
It could be added to section 2, so I definitely think it makes sense to move the directly connected impervious area. So the first time it's used, but we could also add it to section 2 if
So it would be added it would be letter P. No. Q.
I mean, I can figure that out and looks like it'd be Q. Oh. Well, duly authorized agents in the wrong spot. So we could also fix that.
Yeah. That would be a de minimis change.
So yeah, we could look to add it to the definitions as well. Is that general consensus?
Good to go.
I'm good with that.
Thanks for all these track changes, Jamie. And
It
going
helps
through.
us to know what it is though, because otherwise it goes out. All right, so we'll add it to section 2. Since we're on the topic of definitions, I had kind of debated whether or not simple disconnection should also get added as a definition, but I think simple disconnection is very specific to water quality volume, whereas the DCIA is kind of more general. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily needed as reference outside of this one regulation section, if you will. So I'm not sure that it's necessary to have it as a definition, but.
No, and I think this is Commissioner Boda, I think that it ties to that very specific spot in the manual anyway. And
Yeah.
so they would use the manual for the definition.
Okay.
Isn't it defined just below?
Yeah, that exactly. So I don't know, like I was saying, because I don't think it's really referenced anywhere else in the regulations. I don't know that it needs to be in definitions, but apparently I felt the need to drag the whole commission into that thought process. So yeah, I mean, it's all defined here, so I don't think it, unless you wanted to move it from here to definitions, which I think isn't terribly helpful.
Page 3.
We did it. Didn't we do it?
No, we flipped back up, so we need to move down.
I got my own open.
Are we done, or I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing everyone tonight.
There you go.
And so the only other changes I have are not identified in the document I sent out. And that's just to correct the formatting error, which I don't know if it technically needs to be a regulation revision, but I figured I might as well throw it in. 7.10C1. I closed them. One of the numberings got off, so I just want to fix that. And then the other updates are to update the commission members as applicable and update page numbers as applicable. And keeping it simple and focused so that hopefully we can
Inland Wetland Associate Katie Blanchett, Jamie, we also need to remember to change the revision date.
yes, the revision date would also be updated
Yes.
according to
Because we
the
missed.
revision, and the effective date would be updated to reflect whatever is
Yes.
applicable. That's not something that has to be part of what we send up to DEEP though. But we will be informing of them of that information after the commission makes a decision regarding the regulation revisions.
I guess this Commissioner Vassman, at this point, follow up on Commissioner Begerman's question. Do you have all that you need now, Jamie, to frame this and send it up to DEEP?
Yeah, assuming the commission's satisfied with the discussion this evening, we can make the changes as identified, send it up to DEEP. Schedule the public hearing for August 22nd so that there's additional time if needed. It's the commission's item, so you can always table it if we end up with a big list of stuff. Or do you want to schedule it for September 12th?
This is Commissioner Bassman. I guess that's the only meeting we have in August, right? The 22nd.
Correct.
I'd put it on the agenda. Let's see if we can move this thing along.
I don't think it's gonna take us long. We just did all of the work.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's just, yeah, we agree with what we said in July.
August,
8:30 while we
so
were.
we'll get it up to the state and work on scheduling everything for the August 22nd meeting.
Right.
We could put it up first and everyone can sit through it.
Oh, my goodness.
That is a very good idea.
We do put public hearings first generally.
All right. Moving along. We don't need a vote or anything on that, right, Jamie?
No.
Moving along, we have an application for receipt inland wetland 240701 34 Howard Avenue. Retaining wall, front walk, parking area, landscaping. I don't see anyone for the applicant on the call.
Right,
It's a
per
receipt,
our
so-
new practices, it's just for receipt.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we'll get a presentation at the next meeting.
Great. And we have no agent reviews, and we have no correspondence, and it is 8:42. Oh,
Inland Wetland Associate Katie Blanchett, I would like to make an announcement, if possible. Everybody's amenable to that. Tomorrow is our fearless leader's birthday.
Yeah,
So-
I saw the birthday thing in the back. Wondering.
Hold on a second. Hold on a
I'm
second.
here, I'm taking notes, thinking it's important.
Don't go anywhere.
It is important. So happy birthday to Jamie.
oh yeah, well, that's wonderful news.
Yo.
23 again.
Oh, we're should go close.
I think we're gonna hear some music.
Oh, gee. I think we have to wait for him to
I
come
think
back.
it might be a hat.
I think it might be his
Wait a minute,
accordion.
I've got a serenader. She can't go anywhere yet. We gotta sing happy birthday. We gotta do it right.
There we go.
We gotta do it right. You ready, Jamie?
Nope.
Happy birthday
To
to you.
you. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to you.
you.
Happy
Happy
Birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Jamie.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you. Everybody realizes this is public.
I know.
How old are you? Tomorrow. How old are you, dear Jamie? Happy birthday
Someone make a
to
motion to
you.
adjourn, quick.
This is advertising for David.
Happy birthday, Jamie.
Hey,
Happy birthday.
Happy
take care,
birthday.
folks. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Motion to
Hey, you're
adjourn.
blushing.
Second.
Second that motion. Good night. Happy
Good night,
birthday.
everybody.
Good night, happy birthday.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.